All right, everybody. The Purple Perch, Tad and Tim here.
Purple Perch.
It's time, baby. We are counting into the AFC Championship Game. Yeah, get your blood boiling.
Here we go.
Legally not allowed to play more than that. We will get fined by the NFL.
All they're getting. That's all they're getting. They're just getting a little teaser.
That's all you can hear.
It's not like they haven't heard it before.
Yeah, you know what it sounds like. You know what it sounds like. It's fine. There you go. All right, so
that's it again. Once again, that's what we do around here. It's just a little teaser, just to get the blood, just to get you pumped. And,
we gotta get our hooks in you.
Yeah.
All right, so here it is.
We'll play the rest of it at the end of the show. So, if you stick through the whole thing, it's just
the end.
It's a continuation.
There's a huge payoff if you could just stick with us through the end of the show.
Right. That's great.
But yeah, AFC Championship Game, baby. Baltimore Ravens, Kansas City Chiefs. The road to the Super Bowl runs through Baltimore. You can see who we're supporting right here. We got the Ravens going. Got the Roquan Smith going. Got the purple in the background for each of us. We're ready to rock this game. This is the big one, baby. This is for all the marbles to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was going to say, there's a few more marbles left.
There's a few more marbles. There's a few more marbles.
We get through this one.
Gosh. Well, okay, man. We're in it now. So let's roll with this. What do you think, man? AFC Championship Game, Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson, Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. How are you feeling? We're going to talk through some keys to to victory for the Ravens. We've got some stats and things that I think will be really good to talk through. But how are you feeling right now?
I feel less nervous this week than last week. Not because I'm 100% confident we'll win. I'm probably less confident we'll win this week, but I'm less nervous because of the upset factor. Last week, the nervousness was are we going to lose to a rookie quarterback in all, I'm saying we lost to Tannehill in 2019 in a very similar scenario. Didn't even throw 100 yards passing, and we got upset that game. And so I think the nervousness was, are we going to get upset again at home with a bye week, home field advantage? So I would say I was probably more nervous last week, but I less like our odds of winning this week.
You less like our odds of winning?
Yeah.
Okay.
For a plethora of reasons, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Okay, interesting. All right, so just so you know, we are live streaming this. So from time to time, I may jump in with some comments and things like that from folks who are on the stream with us as well.
Yes, sir.
So. All right. Well, listen, man, like I said, we're in it. Let's talk through what this is going to look like. I mean, we kind of almost always knew we had to end up here, right? There's almost always that knowledge that if you're in the AFC, one way or another, you've got to be able to get past the Kansas City Chiefs. This is their 6th straight AFC Championship Game, which is unbelievable. And even though they seemingly are not fielding as strong a team this year as they have in years past, there's a lot to like about that team and the way that they play. The defense has been excellent.
I was going to say, do you really believe, that the difference in is that different than past teams? Are you 100% sold? They shouldn't be here. They won 2 less games than us.
Right?
Is that what they won? Yeah. So
I think so.
2 or 3, something like that. But so nothing significant. A couple of those were fluke games, but do you really think they're that much worse than past Kansas City Chiefs teams?
I think there are a couple parts to this, right? If you look at their points scored, so they were 11-6. You look at their points scored, they're lower, right? They're not putting up a ton of points. They're a less explosive offense this year than what they've been in the past. Mm-hmm. I honestly, in a weird way, this year's Kansas City Chiefs, I feel like is what most people thought last year's Kansas City Chiefs were going to look like with the loss of Tyreek Hill. And last year's Kansas City Chiefs still had a lot more explosiveness on offense than people really thought that they would. I think a lot of people thought there was going to be this drawback with the loss of Tyreek, and then it wasn't there as much as people thought. This year, I do feel like, it's a more sluggish offense, a little bit more methodical, obviously. But, if you look at the points scored, they're not an incredibly high scoring, offense. I mean, they've scored 294 points on the season. And that's not a huge, a huge number at all, particularly for the Chiefs.
Well, and this is the first year that Mahomes did not have a 1,000-yard receiver.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean,
that's right. Kelsey didn't get there.
Kelsey didn't get there. So he was 984. He had 1,000 yards last year. Year before that, Tyreek and him both had 1,000 yards. So he's always kind of had that, like to your point, that explosive element where you go, well, you could put up 21 and a quarter and not blink, which he did against us.
Yes.
So you're like, man, by the time he gets the second quarter, we're down 24-0. Like, how did that happen? So I agree with you that it's not as explosive an offense, but I think that defense is not being talked about nearly enough. You are second in sacks, really only behind. I mean, Baltimore Ravens have gotten so much fanfare about having 60 sacks in the season, all this. They have 57.
Yeah.
So it's not like they were slacking. Like, so they're
Right.
number 2 in sacks, they're number 2 in yards allowed per game, and they're number 2 in scoring defense per game behind us on the scoring and behind us on the sacks, and then of course not behind the Browns on yards per game. And so you look at this team like you are a nasty defense.
And the reason that people have overlooked that is because we don't think of the Chiefs as a defensive team. We think of the Kansas City Chiefs as an offensive team and an explosive offense. And this year they've been changing it, and they've needed to, but they've been winning with defense. Because if you look offensively, the Kansas City Chiefs scored 371 points. The Ravens scored 483 on the season. So, I mean, we're talking about, what is that, 113-point difference? So over the course of a season, we're talking almost 10 points a game difference in average points per game between the Ravens and the Chiefs. That's a significant swing. So we're more than a touchdown difference in terms of, the offensive side. Now, if you look at that defensive side, the Chiefs allowed 294 points. The Ravens allowed 280. So for the entire season, there's only a 14-point swing there, right? So 2 touchdowns is really the difference in points allowed between these two teams on the defensive side for the entire season. So it's a 113-point swing on offense, but it's only a 14-point swing on defense.
Which I was going to ask, but when it comes to playoffs, I mean, all those stats go out the window, right? So we go, okay, historically, here's how we've done. You could have taken the 2012 Ravens and gone like, you shouldn't be putting up numbers to keep up with Peyton Manning. You know what I'm saying? Like in the divisional round.
Right.
So there's no reason, like we weren't putting up those kind of numbers.
Yeah.
But we did that game. And so you got to wonder, like, we have some history here, but when you have Mahomes and Kelsey and Andy Reid in the playoffs, how much of that is really truly going to play into the scenario? Now,
Well, go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say the turnover differential, we're slightly better than them on the takeaway side, but still, who knows?
Yeah. Well, look, I think there's a couple parts to it too. When you look across the board at these teams, the biggest difference is, and I was saying this, the other night on, when we were talking through this on the You Get the Horn show, and I was talking through, what I thought the AFC Championship game would look like. And I said that what I believe the biggest challenge to the Ravens from the Chiefs is the experience, is the fact that this is their 6th straight AFC Championship game. Mm-hmm. They know how to win these games.
Yep.
This means everything to the Ravens. This is the 6th straight year that the Chiefs have found themselves in this position. This is not their Super Bowl. This is not a crazy game. And they've shown this season, I mean, they're 6-2 on the road this season, so they can win. They actually have a better record on the road than they do at home. They were only 5-4 at home, but 6-2 on the road. The Ravens were consistent, 7-1 on the road, 6-3 at home. So, really very strong either way. But, the Chiefs have shown they can win road games, so there's no issue there. 6th straight AFC Championship game, no issue there. And one of the things that I always talk about, I was talking about this the other night on You Get the Horns. I'll say the exact same thing tonight. I will probably belabor this point. For me, it always comes down to best coach, best quarterback. The team that has the best coach and the best quarterback is usually going to be a safe bet to win, particularly in the postseason.
So
and when
Andy
you went
Reid better
through,
than Harbaugh.
great question. I think that most people would probably give Andy Reid an edge. That he's certainly the more accomplished coach, right? There's no doubt about that. Yes,
deservedly so.
Yes. So you say,
I could
okay,
hate every single Chiefs player. I'm not hating Andy Reid.
Yeah, Andy Reid's a great coach. So you figure, okay, if you're going to give him the edge over Harbaugh, and then it's Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Now, I mean, again, chances are you're probably saying Patrick Mahomes is the better quarterback. Now, we are literally splitting hairs when we're getting into these comparisons now. Because when you're looking at an Andy Reid and John Harbaugh and a Patrick Mahomes and a Lamar Jackson, I mean, these are the best of the best. This is where it gets different, because when you start looking at the playoffs and you said, I don't know, Tua and Mike McDaniel against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, there's a big gulf there. And then you start moving to the Bills and you say, okay, Josh Allen getting closer, but Sean McDermott is nowhere near an Andy Reid. So there you go, a big gulf there. You could say the same thing on the NFC side, right? Where you go through these things. So more often than not, that's your safer bet. Now we get to this point where there's not a major gulf between these coaches or these quarterbacks. But I do think if you were going to give an edge, you're probably going to give that edge to the Chiefs at coach and quarterback. However, maybe not this season. If you look at Mahomes this particular season versus Lamar, it's closer. Mahomes, again, they weren't nearly as explosive in offense. Still has great stats, obviously. Nobody's going to take that away from him. But that they're closer now than they've ever been historically.
Yeah, I don't know that this is probably one of Mahomes' worst stat years, though. I mean, not talking about yards. So you have 4,000 yards. But you're looking at 27 touchdowns and what's 14, 17 interceptions, something like that? Like, hold on, let me pull this up. 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you take the 4,000 yards, which he's going to throw 4,000, blindfolded.
Right.
The fact that his turnovers have been so huge, I mean, it definitely feeds into the narrative that the offensive line isn't as strong as it used to be. That his receivers not having that breakout. Now Rice has been doing outstanding as of late, but not having that like massive breakout guy that he can get the ball out quick to, like these quick screens and these quick slants that they've been accustomed to that have turned up massive yard after catch, just not there.
Yeah.
So you got to wonder, like, all right, so okay, it's not this year, but of course Jeff said in the You Get the Horn show this week with the preview, Jeff said, well, can I ever pick against Mahomes? Mm-hmm. And that's still the question, because when it comes down to it, the dude has experience. You have an outstanding coach. You have a good enough of a running game. With Pacheco, he's not a slacker. He is a hard runner. And if there is an Achilles heel for us, it's that we've struggled this year more than years past in stopping the run. And so if they lean on that, So let me ask you this: if the Ravens beat the Chiefs, would you consider that an upset?
No. You no. Can't. I don't think it can possibly be considered an upset. It may feel like an upset. It feels like an upset because the Chiefs are a giant and you have to find a way to slay that giant. But the reality is you can't be the number one overall seed, have a first round bye, have them have to come to your house, and then say it's an upset if you win.
So you're saying if the Chiefs beat the Ravens, it's an upset? Or are you saying like there's no upset?
I don't think there's an upset. To me, this is really, really simple. And the bottom line is it is a heavyweight match. It's a slugfest between these two teams, right? These are the two, I mean, look, there are three great teams in the NFL. And it's probably the Niners, the Ravens, and the Chiefs. And
yeah, and you could have said Dolphins until the late in the year last year, and you could have said same. They could have said Eagles until late in the year. So I would say for the scope of the entire year, yeah, I think you're right. That's it.
So these are the three great teams, and
expect them to be in the finals. Yeah,
yeah. So it's like you can't look at it and go, "Oh, it's a huge upset." it's I think they're very evenly matched. I think this, another year, or who knows if Tylan Wallace doesn't return that kickoff against the Rams in overtime for a touchdown, maybe we're going to Kansas City instead of Kansas City coming to Baltimore. I mean, it really can come down to just a play like that. And if that were the case, is it an upset? It's not an upset if the Ravens went to Kansas City and beat the Chiefs, but it feels even more like one because it's still like slaying that dragon. But this is a home game for the top-ranked team in the NFL. It feels like something bigger than it is.
And what would classify as an upset, is the expectation that one team is going to lose and should rightfully lose. Now, this is like the Patriots. When there are multiple years that we played Brady, that we had, like, I genuinely feel like we had the better team.
Yes.
But you could argue, they were better coached, more prepared, and they had some stuff go their way. You got to have, I said this time and time again, you've got to have some luck to make it to the Super Bowl. And so turnovers were dominant. Like this is we would say that, okay, they had a great defense as far as statistics, but they did not force the turnovers that we forced. So we had 14 more turnovers the course of the year with a plus 12 differential. There was negative 11. And so they were turning the ball over frequently. So we didn't force any turnovers the last game. I mean, none against Stroud, no picks, no fumbles. And they did not
came really close, but didn't get it.
And they still did not get to the red zone in the second half. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, incredible. So it speaks to the discipline of our team on the defensive side. So I think, can we force the turnovers, and not just force them? Can we turn turnovers into points? If we can I'm not talking field goals. If we can steal possessions and flip those into even if you just get one touchdown out of it, I think we have a solid chance of winning. But it's Mahomes, it's Kelsey. You have nearly 1,000-yard rusher with Pacheco, so he's no slouch, and he runs hard. He runs hard. And I mean, Rice has had almost 1,000 yards receiving. So.
Look, there. You may have heard this, but I said this week on You Get the Horns that, like, if you look at that Ravens defense, right, that Triple Crown defense, and what are those three strong points? It's points allowed, right? They're only allowing 16.5 points a game. It's takeaways and it's sacks. And what are the three things that you would most want to accomplish against a Patrick Mahomes-led team? It's takeaways, it's quarterback pressures or sacks, and obviously limiting their scoring. If you hold the Chiefs to anywhere near 16.5 points, then you should be winning that game 99 out of 100 times. And that still leaves a chance that you don't. But if you can manage to hold them there. Now, there are a few interesting things, and I wanted to break them down here for you, just kind of from the top to give you some a couple things to think about here. So the Chiefs this season, Kansas City Chiefs this season, played exactly 5 playoff teams. Against those 5 playoff teams, they went 1-4.
Okay.
They were 0-4 against top 10 defenses. They barely beat a Buffalo team last week that obviously had a lot of injuries and things like that. The Chiefs defense
had a lot of Buffalo.
Yeah, the Chiefs definitely ranked high.
Yeah,
defensively, but really, when you look at what they did against good teams, they struggled. Right, 1-4 against playoff teams, that's not great, and really struggling against top 10 defenses. 0-4 against top 10 defenses, that's tough.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that's the cure-all, that answers everything. But it is, look, late in the season, you started hearing things about Miami. And clearly the wheels had fallen off, right? They couldn't beat good teams. That was the thing you were hearing throughout the season. Like, okay, Miami can destroy bad teams, but they're not beating good teams. Mm-hmm. And then it was, but they're so explosive, it's just they've had a couple bad games. But then the wheels fell off. Mm-hmm. again, best coach, best quarterback. So you're not going to have those same types of things with Kansas City. But I do think there's enough of a sample size to say that offense, because they're not explosive now, is struggling against top defenses. That defense is still going to be good, right? There's no doubt about that. Nobody's taking that away. But in years past, when you looked at what they were able to accomplish offensively, it was hugely different. And the one point I'll make really briefly about this is that if you look at what the Chiefs have scored this season, the number of times that they scored 30 or more points in the regular season, because I went back and looked, and I can tell you they scored two times in the regular season that they scored 30 or more points. That's it. So the scoring hasn't been there like has traditionally been the case for the Chiefs. And, at the end of the day, they're just not putting up those types of points. So they have a good defense, but they still end up being in incredibly tight games because they're putting up like 20, 21 points a game. And
well, that's execution, because it's not like they're not putting up yards.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They were still a top 10 passing team.
Yeah.
Top seven passing team in terms of yardage. So that speaks to their turnover differential. Not being able to finish in the red zone like they had historically. Historically, you're like, if they get within the 20, that's a guaranteed touchdown. Like, you just knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
But they had a lot of faux pas this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because in a 17-game season, to give you an idea, I told you earlier that the Chiefs scored 371 total points on offense. In a 17-game season, that's 21.8 points per game. So they're averaging
magic
21
number
points. Yeah. So they're averaging 21 points a game on offense. For us, we're letting up 16 and a half points. So even if we let them score their average.
Right. We are 13-1 when we score 21 points or more this year.
That's it.
So, that's the magic number.
That's the magic number.
If we can get 3 touchdowns, and again, you're playing, you cannot negate the fact that you're playing against a top tier defense who's only allowed 17 points a game. So their average is less than what we need to win, is what they've allowed. So I really feel like this can go either which way. This game has me scratching my head a little bit.
Look, here's what's funny. If it wasn't the Kansas City Chiefs, you would not be worried about this game. I mean this for myself as well. You'd be worried only about the stakes, right? The fact that it is still the AFC Championship game and anything could happen. But if you knew nothing about nothing and a team was just coming in with the stats that this team has,
right,
and you said, okay, so they're averaging 21 points a game. They're, they have a good defense, but they haven't done anything against good teams. You would go, oh, okay, well, we're going to dominate these guys. The difference is, the previous 5 years of history with this team, and knowing what they've been able to do and the winning pedigree that they have. That's the thing that makes you overlook the evidence, the proof of what's in front of you. You overlook that because of knowing who they are under those numbers.
Well, and the things that you would bring up that would go, oh, these are factors, I don't think are factors. So you can go, well, it's supposed to rain. Mahomes is outstanding in poor weather, and especially even in really cold weather. I mean, he plays in Kansas City, so he's in all the elements. And so he has an outstanding record in bad weather. Oh, well, it's a hostile crowd. That doesn't seem to faze him when he plays on the road. He has a excellent road record. Now, you could say this is the first AFC Championship he's ever had to play on the road. You could throw that out there, but you could have said that about last week. First time you had to be on the road in Buffalo. Didn't matter. Well, more because that's Buffalo's fault more than it is Kansas City's 100%. Fault last week.
Because I would argue slightly that maybe it did matter. Like, they barely won that game. Arguably shoulda, coulda, woulda lost the game. That was more about Buffalo blowing it than Kansas City winning it. Now, Kansas City still held in.
Yeah.
But
all they need to do.
Yeah. I mean, look at that. That was a 27-24 game. And that was working off of Buffalo shanking a field goal at the end, right? So against a very beat up Buffalo defense, I don't even think they had any D-backs left to put in the game at that point. Kansas City was only able to score 27 points. So, you look at that and you go, okay, Buffalo's defense is not close to Baltimore's defense.
Right.
So Kansas City putting up 27 against them, okay, that's fine. But really, they won. But I don't think we could say like they went in and handled Buffalo by any stretch. Buffalo gave them everything they could handle. Buffalo just couldn't handle winning. They couldn't handle success. They never can. So
I hated that. I hated that for them. I was obviously we were all really rooting for Buffalo to win this thing. Just from their history, man, you would love to see them get one. Gosh. Yeah. But it wasn't in cards, and that's mostly up to them. I think that's mostly their fault. I think
it was a very winnable game for them.
It was, and you got to wonder, like, were they overconfident? Go, wow, they got to come to our house now, and you kind of put too much stock in that. And I don't think that we're going to get there. I don't think we're going to have that mindset because I think, I think our mindset and our approach has been very consistent this year from game to game. Yeah, like we're going to kill you is really the overall plan. I think Roquan said it. That's why I threw on the row. He was like, if you don't have I don't know if you watched the Wired episode yet.
Just a little bit of it. I haven't had a chance to finish it.
He was like, if you don't have a killer mindset, you have the wrong mindset in this game. So I think that's where they've been on defense. They've obviously showed it. I think still the pressure's all on Lamar. But I don't think I don't think Lamar is going to be the one that wins it for us. I think he's going to do great. I think it's going to really come down to our running game. So I don't think it's come down to the passing game. I think we could maybe take advantage, but they got strong corners. They got a strong defense. Yeah. So I think the middle of the field is going to be pretty open for us because they are going to have to play deep enough to cover Bateman, Odell, and Zay. So it's not like you can cheat. All three of those guys can float, can blow by you. So I think the middle of the field is going to be very, very open. And so I think really utilizing those quick slants, the checkdowns, but keeping Mahomes off the field. And whenever we beat Brady, it was because we did not let him have the ball. Like we dominated time possession. We kept him off, kept him cold, kept him from getting in a rhythm. I think if we can do that. So for me, the key players for us, Gus and Justice. So.
Okay, going right at it. So you're saying key players for the Ravens for the AFC Championship game, Justice Hill, Gus Edwards.
Yep.
I like it. Well, look, I don't disagree with you at all as it pertains to ball control for the Ravens, right? That's going to be a huge, huge part of this game. I think the Ravens are going to have to be methodical. Like if I had to pick a word to describe the Ravens' key to success in this game, that word is methodical on offense and on defense.
The last two drives, that's what we need to be almost the entire game. You know what I'm saying? The last two drives against Houston, where you're going like a 7.5 minute, just moving it down there, scoring touchdowns.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's breaking, soul crushing drives that you just dominate and
them out.
Just grind down that other team.
We wore them out. We wore that defense out, and that's what you need. You need that. Yeah. If there's a bunch of 3-and-outs, man, and we're turning the ball over, it'll be very hard for us to overcome that.
Yeah.
We've had you have a comeback game or two this year, but nothing where you're like down 2.5 scores, 3 scores, and you're going like, all right, we gotta put together these so insane second half and outscore them by 21 in the second half. Like if we get into that scenario, we're not winning.
No.
Mahomes, he's not going to get rattled on the road. He's seen it all. He's so good in the pocket. He can make every single throw. And despite his awkwardness and his Kermit-like, persona, he is a killer when it comes down to like burying teams. The dude is relentless. Yeah. So you can't take series off. Like the Ravens cannot take series in this game and just feel like, even if you have a lead, that it's just like, okay, no big deal, whatever. We didn't get that 3-and-out. We'll just punt it. We'll get them next time. Every single drive needs to have weight to it.
There's gravity to every time you have the ball. It's incredibly important. And I'll tell you a couple other stats. So Lamar Jackson versus blitz coverage against the Houston Texans, they blitzed him at a 75% blitz rate. He went 13 of 18 for 120 passing yards and 2 touchdowns against that blitz.
Thank you, Todd Monken.
Yes. So here's the thing. If you are the Chiefs, like if we flip this around, how does the story go after this game if the Chiefs won? What did they do to win?
If they won, I would say it was the same thing that I said at the beginning. If they win this game, it's because we turned the ball over and gave it to them in ideal position where they did not have to make these long sustained drives.
So essentially spotting them the ball, spotting them a short field. That's the secret if they were to win.
I think if we're sloppy, they win. We can't afford to be. I mean, as any NFL team on any given Sunday, you go, well, you're sloppy, you're not going to win. But I think they are more apt to take advantage of those short fields. So my key player for the Chiefs is going to be Harrison Butker.
Ooh, okay.
Scantling's not, Valdez is not that. He had 300 yards, like he had 21 catches this year. So there's nothing about him that's particularly scary. Rice, obviously, they're gonna bracket coverage that dude. Him and Kelsey are getting all the attention. And if we can shut our keys to success, if we can shut down the run, like we did last week, if we can shut down the run, we'll win.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that at all. If we can shut down the run, we'll win. If he's able to get 120, 130 yards against us, that's going to be a coin flip. So, but I think Butker, he may have 4 or 5 field goals this game. He may have 15 points of field goals. Yeah. In which case you're going to if they just get another touchdown or whatever. I think he's going to be the key to success for them. He's had 93%.
Yeah. Good kicker.
I'm sorry, 94%. Yeah, this year he was 33 of 35, and his long was 60. So it's no part of the field's off limits for him. Excellent kicker. You probably are top 3 kicker in the league right now.
Just keep in mind that you mentioned it earlier, though. I will say it: rainy, windy weather in Baltimore, so it could affect the kicking game for both kickers. Could affect the kicking game.
It could, but it won't.
Because we're talking about an 11-mile-an-hour wind from the northeast, is what we're looking at there for Sunday. He's used
to bad weather in Kansas City, though. So, that's why I don't think that's going to play. It's different if it's a dome kicker, and all of a sudden they're like, "Man, it's raining, it's cold. This ball is hard." But Bucker's used to all of it, so I don't think it plays into a factor for him at all, or of course, or Tucky. Yep, but I think he's going to be the X factor on the Chiefs.
Well, look, I think no one else is going to say that.
No one else is going to say that.
No argument on it. No argument on it. I'll tell you, I'm going to repeat player of the game, key to the game for us is going to be Kyle Hamilton. I said it last week, and one of the things that I said was I predicted a tipped pass interception for Kyle Hamilton. He had it in his hands, and he dropped that ball. It was there. It was perfect, right? So,
right there.
But here's the thing. If you look at where he's going to be spending a lot of time, it's going to be right around Travis Kelce. That's going to be where, if you want to find Kyle Hamilton, look for number 87 on the Chiefs, and you're probably going to find Kyle Hamilton in his back pocket. Or I do think I would not be surprised at all if Mike McDonald gets very creative on spinning some safety blitzes. I think I counted before the game last week. I think I said at minimum 4 times that Kyle Hamilton will be blitzing from the safety position, and I do think there's going to be some rolled coverage because I do think Patrick Queen is going to be playing a little bit of a role as well in that. So I think it's going to be interesting what we do there. But I think Kyle Hamilton. Look, I mean, if you look across the board, he's a guy that physically has the ability to match up with a tight end. And there are
has the
not
height.
very many D-backs or safeties that can do that. Yeah, there's not a massive height advantage for Kelsey like there normally is against a D-back or a safety.
Yes, but he can go up. He can keep up with Kelsey's speed. Obviously, Kelsey's route running, and he's a very physical safety. So yeah, he's gonna. Curious how we hold up, how the Chiefs hold up against blitz pressure. We'll be curious about that, and really, this is going to be the telltale game. If they beat us this game, I don't know that there's anything stopping them winning the Super Bowl. The worst case scenario for them to win the Super Bowl is the Lions beating the 49ers and then having to play in Vegas, because it'll, if the 49ers make the Super Bowl, 49ers are going to essentially have a home game. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're in the West Coast, you're in Vegas, you're essentially having a home game.
Yeah.
Everybody out there is going to be going to the game. Right, yeah. So that's going to be hard enough as it is. But if somehow the Lions pull up the upset and the Chiefs beat us, I mean, like, just hand the Chiefs the flipping trophy, man. Like,
I mean, the Niners, if we don't win, the Niners should win the Super Bowl. Like, they're the more talented team on paper.
Yes.
They're literally, like I said earlier this week on the other show, they're like an all Madden team from back in the day. Like, if you look, I mean, across the board, all the all pros and pro bowlers they have on the Niners. So if it's Niners Chiefs, the only X factor is Brock Purdy. Right. That's the one area where you would flip, because here's the thing: Travis Kelce versus George Kittle. Look, man, you call that a coin flip. So outside of that, in every single other position on the field, the Niners are better than the Chiefs, except possibly quarterback. Well, not possibly, definitely quarterback.
Yeah.
And so, so you look at that and you go, okay, in every other role, the Niners are better than the Chiefs. However, you can't say that about the Niners against the Ravens. That matchup is far better between those two teams. I mean, you got Roquan Smith on one side, you got Fred Warner on the other side for the Niners. You've got a Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely going against a George Kittle. You obviously have Lamar, who is going to be the presumptive two-time MVP, going against Brock Purdy. So obviously hugely advantageous there, as it is for Mahomes. You've got really good linemen. You've got really good wide receivers. I mean, Brandon Ayuk, you want to put Odell there, you want to put Zay Flowers there. I mean, there's a lot there. So So, there's just, I think that matchup feels like it makes the most sense. If the two most talented teams make the Super Bowl this year, it's going to be the Ravens and the Niners.
Yeah.
And that's talent on paper. Doesn't win games. But
so how you feeling? How you feeling? How you feeling about the game? How you feeling?
Look, I'm nervous. I'm nervous because the Chiefs are one of those teams that just always seem to have our number.
I said they somehow find a way to win it.
Yeah, it's just like they just figure it out. But I texted you the other night, and it's something I've been just thinking about, that like this for the Ravens feels different. This feels like a coronation. It feels like the moment that a new team has ascended. Now, we'll see if it feels that way come Sunday night. But right now, when you look at it and you go, okay, Lamar Jackson is about to win his second MVP.
Yeah.
Mike McDonald, defensive coordinator, was just awarded the assistant coach of the year. You have both the offensive and defensive coordinators were on the list, or the short list of, I think, 5 people for assistant coach of the year. You have the head coach, John Harbaugh, on the short list for coach of the year. You just have, and that MVP, Lamar Jackson, also on the list for offensive player of the year. Everything has lined up. Then you have home field advantage. You have every historic great Ravens player who's coming to this game. Everybody is there. It feels like just the mantle is shifting, the handing off of the baton to this new dominant team. So it's either going to be a coronation or it's going to be a collapse, because there is not a better time to face the Chiefs than right now. And it looks like there is a decent chance somehow that the Ravens are going to be able to keep both their offensive and defensive coordinators going into next season.
Which
that
when
looked
you look
unlikely.
When you look at the Eagles and how that brain drain affected them, losing their coaching staff last year, you could see it was visceral change.
Yep.
So that for our longevity definitely is huge. Now we've been, we had to go outside the pocket to get these two guys, but Mike had been with us before.
Yeah, linebackers coach and
yeah. And of course, you got Zach Orr, linebackers coach now with us, and of course, he's a Raven through and through, gets
absolutely.
it.
Anthony Weaver, Chris Hewitt. I mean, these guys that are getting interviews elsewhere.
Yeah.
So far, I mean, we'll just keep our fingers crossed. Joe Ortiz, director of player personnel, is getting some GM interviews, but nothing's happened thus far. If we're able to keep this staff together,
be big
going into next season, I mean, that's massive. So the point of all of that is to say, this is not a Chiefs team at the peak of their powers. Still a very good Chiefs team, just not at the peak of their powers. It is a Ravens team that feels like it is at the peak of its powers, or darn near.
I'll give you a hypothetical. Chiefs are down 14 points in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. They have the ball to start the quarter. Do you think they would be able to pull it out? And now let me flip this. Ravens are down 14 points in the fourth quarter. We have the ball to start the fourth quarter. Do you feel like we could pull it out?
Okay. You want me to answer each of those scenarios?
Yep. I want you to answer each of those scenarios, sir.
Yeah. Chiefs could absolutely pull it out. There's no doubt about that. I would give us probably a 65 to 70% chance of winning the game if we were up by 14 at the start of the fourth quarter.
Okay.
And then obviously that number continues to climb as the clock ticks down. We could still win it if we have the entire fourth quarter. And if you told me there's 5 minutes left or something like that, that starts to really tighten things up. If we got the whole fourth quarter, we're down by 14, we can still win the game, but it's going to be tough. Okay. It's going to be tough. Something tells me though, that there's something that's going to happen in this game that we have not seen before. Something tells me that the Ravens have something in the bag that we have not seen before. I don't know what it is. I want to be super clear. I'm not hearing this from anybody. I just get the feeling that there's going to be a gadget play, a trick play, a very unexpected play by the Ravens in this game. I don't know if it's going to be a flea flicker. I don't know, if I just feel like there's going to be something in this game, in the bag of tricks that might come out.
Okay.
I feel like there's something we've been holding.
Okay.
So keep an eye out.
I mean, are you like, okay, it's a special teams type of thing? Like we haven't been big on the, punt, fake punts, fake field goals, which I thought we might pull one out last game. And, last time I saw this, I'm sure we've had one since, but the only one I can remember is when we missed in the Super Bowl. Which that was man, what are you doing? So the only game we lost this year when we scored 21 points or more was to the Browns. Yeah, and they played out of their minds. Yeah, to pull off that win. I mean, everything went right in every single possible way for them. Yep. In that game, if we score 21 on the nose, do you think we win this game?
No. I would say no. I don't think 21 wins you the game. Now we could still win it, but I would give us probably like a 35% chance of winning it if we score 21 points.
Because we had a 2 touchdown, we had a 14-point lead. I use that 14-point number because the game that we lost, we were up by 14 to Cleveland in that scenario. We were up by 14 in the fourth quarter, 31-17 in the fourth quarter. We just scored at the top of the fourth quarter. They had the ball, and they came back and obviously had 17 unanswered points on us.
And that was, gosh, I don't even remember. What was that, like week 9?
I
think that was week 9 or 10.
Yeah, week 10.
So for all intents and purposes, little more than halfway through the season. The Ravens were a very, very different team after that game. Like,
yes.
To give you an idea, because, bringing it up here, if you look at that game where, they lost, right? We put up 31 points. But if you look what happened after that, we put up 34 against the Bengals, 20 against the Chargers in a win, 37 against the Rams. Then we beat the Jags. Then we beat the Niners. Then we beat the Dolphins. And we just really went on that run. So that Browns game was really the last game that you could look at and go, wow, we lost. Should have never lost it. But we might have learned something from it.
Well, both of the scenarios where I would say the two games where we won one, we lost one, the Rams and the Browns. Browns, dude played out of his mind, was just flawless going down the stretch, and they pulled out the win. Yeah. The other game, was Matthew Stafford. Dude played out of his mind, played so good. And truthfully, they should have won that game against us. It was, hey, diddle, Ray Rice up the middle type of thing again, right? You get just like this freak play at the end. You run back to punt for a touchdown, and we win. But those are the two games where you go, okay, when the quarterback plays out of his mind like that, and is passing all over us, and it's just pinpoint accuracy, and it's just in a zone, and we can't get up, because those are games where we could not get off the field. You know what I'm saying? So like if Mahomes has that kind of day, it's going to be a long day for us.
Sure.
So.
No argument, but it's hard to say that the opposite's not true as well. Like anyone who has that kind of day, it's going to be hard. If Lamar has that kind of day, because let's face it, this version of Lamar Jackson is unlike any version we've ever seen.
Much scarier.
What we are seeing every game this season, you could basically look at and see things in that game, whether we won or lost, that were better than he's done at any point previous in his career.
Decision making is so much better than in previous years. Patience in the pocket,
yes,
tenfold better. Even when he breaks out for the run, he's keeping his eyes downfield. So, this version of Lamar is the best version of Lamar we've ever seen, 100%. And it really started probably mid-year.
Yeah. And you start looking at that and you go, okay, well, what this guy has the ability to do. And one of the things that you really saw in the second half of the Texans game is that Lamar Jackson just decided, I'm not going to let this game be close anymore. Yeah. And then it wasn't. Like, it really was that simple. Like if we need a first down, I'm just going to take the ball. I'm running it. I will scramble. I will find the open receiver. If I don't like it, I'm running it. I'll pick up the first down. I'll run the touchdown. I'll do what I need to do. And for that guy to have 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns in a playoff game against a team known for defense, I just feel like there's a killer instinct now in Lamar that is matching a skill set. He always had the killer instinct. He just didn't have the skill set. And so sometimes he would overreach to make a play. And that's when, unfortunately, you'd see that fumble. You'd see that, that accidental intentional grounding because he was trying to throw the ball away and he couldn't, or a sack when you were so frustrated wanting to scream at the TV, telling him to throw the ball away, and he takes a sack late in the game. This version of Lamar, this is a different dude. And those types of mistakes, we just have not seen him making them. Yeah. And he's grown up. This feels like a grown up Lamar.
It does. And he'll need it. He'll need it for Chris Jones. Like, he's going to obviously keep an eye out there.
And that's going to be a stressor. Chris Jones is going to be a stressor on that offensive line.
100%.
I will say, I saw the other day, Travis Jones for the Ravens has the best rush defense win percentage of any player in these playoffs.
Wow.
Yeah. He's really, really, really been playing well.
I think, again, I'm not as nervous to this game, not because I don't think we'll dominate or that we got it in the bag. It is purely because losing last game is a massive upset. Massive upset. You lose last. I was more nervous of that game because of what that would have done to just the morale of the team and the city, and losing that game at home again. And so we were very nervous first half. Obviously, we're not going to rehash this game, but very nervous that first half. Very happy the second half. Not as nervous this game because I know what to expect this game. If you lose, you're not going to be like, oh, I didn't see that coming. It's not one of those things where you go like, well, it's previous years. Yeah, well, it's freaking Patriots, man. It's the
Yep.
what can I say? They're at the Super Bowl again. Is every single and this was a year where that division with the Chiefs, they were the only team with a winning record in their division.
Yeah.
Everybody else had, and they were the only team in all of football. The only division in all of football where only one team had a winning record. Every other division had at least two teams with winning records. And of course you have, our division, which is by far the best division in football, where everybody's just getting in on it. Like we're all great. So it feels a lot like my hesitation goes, okay, it just feels a lot like freaking Brady again, where you have the best coach, you got the best quarterback, you got the best tight end, and you have home field advantage, which they didn't have this year. And you have a top 10 defense. So it just feels so similar to
I agree. But let me flip something else there from what you just said.
Flip it.
I'm fitting to flip it. So
Flip the script.
I'm fitting to flip this. So here's the thing, right? Everything you just said is accurate. However, couldn't you also say, well, they played in the worst division in football. Fair. They could not play well against top 10 teams and didn't.
Fair.
And padded their stats with wins against the teams in their own division. So maybe the Chiefs really aren't as good as their record would indicate. And if they played in a stronger division, they might have 3 or 4 more losses on that record. Because if you look at who they play, it's the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Chargers. Keeping in mind that the Chargers were a 5-win team. Mm-hmm. These are not good teams. And so you look at that and you go, okay, so they got to play each of those teams twice. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, they're a team that knows how to win. So, I mean, in any individual game, the Chiefs can absolutely win. There's no doubt about that. They have the talent, they have the pedigree, they have the experience, and the right people in place. But this season, when you said earlier, like, well, they were only, 3 games behind us record-wise? It's like, yeah, but we earned our 3. And if you look at the teams that we beat, it is everybody. It's the Niners. It's the Dolphins. It's the Rams. The Rams. It's the Lions. It's every team that is relevant in the postseason we've already beaten. The Chiefs can't say anything like that. And so, again, as it pertains to being battle-tested this year, the Ravens are the battle-tested team this year, not the Chiefs.
Yep. I agree with you completely. And I think like you said at the very beginning, would you feel like this with any other team but Mahomes?
Right.
And I'm with you. If I'm looking at this, the hesitation with Stroud was just the upset factor. You had a week off from rest. We blew the game in 2019 against the Titans. And so that was looming. Yes. Because if you looked at any other person looking at that game objectively goes, there's no way Houston has a chance. Like they may stay in it for a little bit, but they don't have the pedigree on both sides of the ball like we do to be able to sustain that. Now, hats off to Stroud. Didn't turn the ball over. Really played a smart game, but a smart game in that arena is not going to win you the game. You're going to have to take risks and take shots, and they didn't do that. He didn't take shots downfield where he was just so brutal. We touched on that last week, where he was so good this year, and we kept a lid on it. And I think the big play stuff, that's a backbreaker for us. If we can grind them and make them earn every yard like we did last week, we'll do well. If we give up deep touchdowns to Rice or to Kelsey or whatever, Kelsey doesn't look the same this year. He doesn't. It doesn't seem, it's that Taylor Swift effect. I don't know. He was just got the dating butterflies in his stomach. But he doesn't look the same.
Weak legs.
Looks distracted. Hope we win. But if we have a reaction video after this game and we lose, one, I'm not going to be shocked about it. I'll be disappointed. Won't be shocked. Right. And two, if we come back and have a reaction video after a game that we lost and we lose this game, we'll probably be able to point to just failed execution on our end as to the reason.
Yeah.
Which
And actually, I think that's a great point.
yeah.
I think it's on us. We win, it's on us. If we lose, it's also on us. It'll be more about us than them. This game is more about us than it is them.
And that's the Bills.
Yeah, exactly. And
Because
I
if
think
if you repeated that game this week, Bills win.
yeah,
Like I think it was just one of those games where I think they were overconfident. They
Probably.
cut you off, but I think they were overconfident, and I think they yeah.
Well, and I'll give you one other thing, because you mentioned earlier about the success of the Chiefs defense this year. There's no doubt they've played well against, haven't really played against very many people, but they played well. However, you're familiar with, in the stats world, DVOA, correct? DVOA, for anyone who isn't familiar, is the defense adjusted value over average. So this calculates a team's success based on the down and distance of each play during the season, then calculates how much more or less successful each team is compared to the league average. I have for you the best weighted DVOA through the divisional round from 1981 to 2023.
Okay.
I will tell you that we're going to start this list, because this is a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 teams. The lowest is the New England Patriots in 2004. They won the Super Bowl. Their weighted DVOA was 38.4.
Okay.
That will go to all the way up to near the top of the list, the 1985 Bears, who won the Super Bowl, with a weighted DVOA of 49.4.
Okay.
So pretty close, from 38.4 to 49.4. There's basically that 11-point swing on this list. The 2023 Ravens had a 55.2, by far the highest on the list. Out of these other teams, the 85 Bears won the Super Bowl. The 96 Green Bay Packers won the Super Bowl. The 91 Washington Redskins won the Super Bowl. The 2020 Buffalo Bills lost the conference championship game. The 89 San Francisco 49ers won the Super Bowl. The 97 Packers lost the Super Bowl. The 92 Dallas Cowboys won the Super Bowl. The 94 49ers won the Super Bowl. 2012 New England lost the championship game. 2019 Kansas City won the Super Bowl. 2013 Seattle won the Super Bowl. 86 Giants won the Super Bowl. 04 Patriots won the Super Bowl. So every team on this list made it to the Super Bowl except for two. Each of them lost the conference championship game. That was the 2020 Buffalo Bills and the 2012 New England Patriots. And then you have the Ravens, who are now in the conference championship game. The Ravens have a 6-point lead over the number 2 team in all-time DVOA since 1981. I say all-time since they started tracking it since 1981. They have 6 points ahead. That is the biggest gap between any two teams on this list by a wide margin.
Well, and that number 2 team this year in DVOA is San Francisco 49ers.
And do you have that number?
39.4% total DVO. So weighted DVOA, let's see, weighted DVOA is 38.4%.
38.4. That would put them at the very, very, very bottom, the last place, tied for last place on this list with the 04 Patriots, who also had 38.4.
And so we have 52.2, like you said.
55.2.
Oh, so all time. I'm saying just this year.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, just this year. So in our total DVOA is 45.5. San Francisco 6% difference, 39.4. So we're still number 1. Kansas City is number 5, with a 15. I'm sorry, a 17. 17.9 total DVOA and weighted 12.7.
Yeah.
So no, you're right. I mean, on paper, mojo, consistency. It feels like everything, momentum wise, everything feels like we should win this. Yeah. And that's what scares me.
Agreed. 100%. This is, we've seen this. We've seen this movie before. And I wanted to have a different ending this time.
Well, we've seen this movie before with other Ravens teams. I mean, our 2011 Ravens, we thought that was a Super Bowl quality team. that year. We were so brutal in defense that year. And less the following year that we won the Super Bowl. Our '06 team was nasty.
Yes.
And we got
That was
knocked
what,
out
13-3 year with Steve McNair, correct?
with Steve McNair.
Yeah.
Held Peyton Manning to under 200 yards, 2 interceptions, and no touchdowns. And we lost the game because our offense could not score. And that's the fear this year. And Lamar's proven me wrong this year in a lot of different ways. I was one of the guys that was saying I feel like we should move on from him.
Yeah.
I hope he proves me wrong this game. But if we fail, I don't know that it's going to. It may be. You never know. Everybody has a bad day. It could be our defense. I feel like if we fail, it's because we just are not. We are not. They're going to kill us in time of possession. We're not keeping him off the field. They're getting too many chances. We're turning the ball over. If we lose, I feel like it will be on our offense, not our defense. Could be wrong.
Yeah, hard to argue. And it does bring me to one point that I want to make here before we wrap things up. And when I air this clip later, I'll have something on the screen. But you and I were talking about this recently. Through their first 6 NFL seasons, comparing Ray Lewis and Roquan Smith.
Yeah.
These numbers are staggering. Through their first 6 NFL seasons, Ray Lewis played 92 games. Roquan Smith played 94. Ray Lewis had 878 tackles. Roquan 851. Ray had 19 and a half sacks. Roquan has 20. Ray was a 3-time first-team All-Pro. Roquan 2-time first-team All-Pro. I mean, these guys are as close as you could possibly be through their first 6 seasons. The difference between them is 2 games, and in those 2 games, no doubt Ray has a significant advantage as it pertains to his 25 more tackles. Yeah. But again, two more games for Roquan and Ray having 25 more tackles. Outside of that, though, but outside of that is just incredibly close. Yeah. Question I have for you: is Roquan Smith the best linebacker in the game today?
I'm biased on that, man. I'm wearing his jersey right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm biased. If it's me, I'm saying yes, and not just because of. I think it's the intangibles, which obviously Ray Lewis is putting up insane stats, but I think what made Ray so great is that he raised the level of every single person that played with him. Yeah. And I think that's the difference with Roquan, because I think Patrick Queen's a really good player, and obviously he's a Pro Bowler this year, but he didn't even come close to scratching that level until we put Roquan next to him. Right. And it changes. He elevated his game so much. Yeah. And so I think it's the type of thing, and we saw this with Ravens linebackers all throughout the years. This guy's a Pro Bowler, he's amazing, goes to a different team, he blows, he sucks, you never hear from him again. Yeah. It was a system scenario where you had to account so much for Ray and so much for Ed. It gave everybody else opportunities to step in and make plays. And so I think he's the best in the game, not just because of the number of the tackles, which you can make an argument for that, not just because of I think it is just a tangible, atmospheric difference when he stepped into our team, and it was immediate.
Yes.
I'm talking the very next game.
Yes.
From that
instant impact.
Instant impact. From that point forward, instant impact. So that's why I think he's the best, because I think he makes everybody around him Pro Bowl level.
Yeah. Well, look, so happens I agree with you. But I will say, obviously the only other linebacker in the game right now is Fred Warner. He's the guy who is, comparable to Roquan playing wise, and a great player. There's absolutely no doubt about that.
Right. And that's where the bias comes in for sure.
Yeah. And I don't disagree with you, on Roquan's value and the intangibles and, the attitude that he brings. And again, that is particular to certain teams. Baltimore embraces that identity. Baltimore is a team that embraces the idea of being a bully. Always has.
Always has, yeah.
That's not every team's identity. That may not be the Niners' identity. They may not care about that or need that or maybe even want that out of a Fred Warner. There are other teams that just don't value those things the same way that the Ravens do. And so, I can't look at it as a negative on any other team if they're not getting that out of their players. but I do look at it as a positive for the Ravens because it is of value to this organization and these players.
Yeah. And I would say the players that we've drafted have complemented them really well. I don't know that if you go outside of people that are just sports fanatics, you could probably look to an average fan and they would know, well, yeah, the 49ers have Chase Young, right? And Nick Bosa. And, they could rattle off, and Fred Warner. So they could probably name those guys. How many people are throwing out Owe or Matabuke?
Right.
Are throwing out these names like, oh, these guys are just our household. They're not. Yeah. But I think Roquan has made them better. I think you got your Bosa and Young. They didn't have to go to the Niners to be good.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I think if you put those guys with the Ravens, all of a sudden I think it's stupid. Look
at what we've seen with Kyle Van Noy and Jadeveon Clowney.
That's right.
Jadeveon Clowney, Kyle Van Noy. Yeah. The impact that those guys have seen late in their career, having career years. And here's what's going to happen.
Okay.
If one of those or both of those guys were to leave the Ravens in the offseason and take big money somewhere else, they won't see the same type of production. The team that they go to will overpay them and will not see the same type of production out of them. And that's not a knock on Van Noy or Jadeveon. It's just that they're in the right system, the right fit for them to be successful. Right. I won't blame them if they take the money and go elsewhere. But the team that pays them just has to understand you're not getting that same type of production out of them. Look, Kyle Van Noy set his own personal record for sacks this season. That dude has played like 13 years or whatever it is in the NFL, 9-10 years. I don't remember off the top of my head. This is the most sacks he's ever had in a season. He wasn't with us week 1. Jadeveon, I think it was week 4 when Van Noy came in. Jadeveon Clowney has totally rekindled his career in this defense.
Well, yeah, you figure the 4 years prior to this year, Clowney had a total of 14 sacks. He had
what do you have this year? 8.5, 9.5?
9.5. Yeah. And so his fourth year in the league, he had 9.5. So he tied his best ever sacks record this year.
Wow. And how many times early in the season did he have sacks that he blew the tackle?
Oh my God.
He ran right by, arm tackle, something, the guy spun off. It was so frustrating for us because Clowney was there. He was in position to have 3 or 4 more sacks this season.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He could have easily been in 11, 12 range for sure.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you look at that and it's just, and man, what a credit to Mike McDonald. What a credit to Mike McDonald and what he's been able to do, not only with this Ravens defense against other teams, but this Ravens defense scheming to take advantage of the skill sets of the players that they have on the roster, the depth that they have on the roster, the number of guys that are making plays, consistently across the board. You look at it and it's just like, my goodness, nobody knew Brandon Stevens was going to be doing anything. This dude has come up huge. Yeah, Ronald Darby coming up huge. Dude, let me tell you something. I got something I want to run through with you. I've had this. I wasn't sure when the best time would be to bring it up, but now feels like a good time to bring it up.
Bring it up.
So I'm going to tell you a little story, since this happens to be what we're talking about right now. And this story is about a gentleman, almost we would have been naming here in a second, a gentleman named Geno Stone. Geno Stone was the 21st safety taken in the 2020 draft in the 7th round.
Okay.
He was waived twice by the Ravens his rookie season. He was claimed off waivers by the Texans. He signed back to the Ravens in 2021 after Houston didn't bother to extend him a qualifying offer. He was named the starting free safety in week 6 of 2022 after Marcus Williams went on IR. He signed another 1-year deal in 2023 to play this year. And he finished second in the NFL in interceptions with 7. Now,
and got snubbed. He should have been a
total. It should have been a Pro Bowler, 100%. But here's my point. What are the chances that this guy who got drafted in the 7th round, which means no team was seeing him as some, amazing dominant prospect,
yeah,
who got waived twice by the Ravens his rookie season, got taken by another team and cut by them, who didn't have a chance to play because he was playing behind a superstar in Marcus Williams and now obviously Kyle Hamilton, who has been playing on 1-year deals and hoping to be able to just stay on a roster, not even as a starter. What are the chances that he finishes second in the NFL in interceptions in the safety position when he's not a starter? This has to do with defensive scheming by Mike Macdonald. This is not a coincidence that Geno Stone gets second in the NFL in interceptions and he's not even a starting safety on the team.
100%, because he played the same number of games last year. How many interceptions did he have last year?
Right. Yes. Yeah, there you go. Zero in the same exact number of games. Now, in all fairness, Mike Macdonald was the defensive coordinator last year too. But the point is, you look at that now. Does that mean that Geno Stone's been putting in the work? You better believe it, right? We're not taking anything away from the work and the effort that Geno Stone's put in. Geno Stone has owned his success and he has every right to it. But when you look again at how this defense is scheming up to create success for players, it is incredibly impressive. Incredibly impressive. And that's the thing that doesn't get talked about. The defensive performances against other teams get talked about. But the number of players that have played incredibly well on the Ravens defense that people don't even know the name of has been incredible.
Yep. And so is there a scheme that's going to work for the man here? Is there a scheme that's going to work for Mahomes?
Look, I don't think there's going to be a scheme that tricks him. I think the scheme is to contain him. And I do think we can do that. And I think it is not that different than it was against CJ Stroud. If you remember, we talked before that game, and I said that the idea with Stroud is you don't need to get sacks. Now, thank God, because we didn't, but you don't need to get him. You just need to speed him up, make him uncomfortable, chase him out of the pocket, put pressure on him to where it's just a half a step, a half a second. He has to speed up a pass a little more than he wants to. He doesn't have time to go through his progressions the way he wants. Now, I'm not some sort of Svengali, but when you watch that game, that's pretty much exactly what ended up happening. And therefore, we were successful. There has not been a game this year that you could point to that CJ Stroud looked more like a rookie than he did in that divisional round game against the Ravens.
Oh, except for week one.
Yeah. I mean, seriously. So really think about that. Like that's really the formula again. I mean, you're going to redo it a little bit and change some things, and Mike Macdonald's going to have some wrinkles. There's no doubt. And, but again, all of those things are not going to be to say, oh, we had 6 sacks this game or something like that. It's just speeding things up, speeding the clock up, the internal clock in Mahomes' head. That's what the Ravens are trying to change. They do that, they're going to win. And
the sacks are great. But it's the getting off the field. Like, awesome if you get a sack on second down, and now it's 3rd and 11. Doesn't matter at all if he picks up that 3rd and 11.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It was just another, like, the drive keeps going. So when we've struggled this year, we haven't been able to get off the field, and they've just extended they picked up a lot of first downs. So yeah, so what do you call it, man? What's the final score?
It's going to be a Ravens win.
So I don't think you gave me the game changer for the Ravens, did you? I said it was going to be
Kyle Hamilton.
The run. Kyle Hamilton, you did. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Kyle Hamilton. Who for the Chiefs?
It's interesting. I went back and forth on the Chiefs side, and now I'm drawing a blank on who it was I picked. So give me a second here. I'll look it back up.
Are you going to say a defense like a Chris Jones, or are you going to say it's?
Well, so I honestly think there's a good chance that it will be a Chris Jones, because that's going to be the side, if he's able to chase Lamar out of the pocket consistently, that's going to play, a huge role in this. I mean, that has to happen for them. It just has to. There's no other way that it works if they're not getting pressure from Chris Jones. What I need to see, and I should have looked it up and I just don't have it. Who I was going to say was Nick Bolton. I was going to look at the linebackers. I feel like the linebacking crew, because What we haven't talked about yet is the return of Mark Andrews.
Well, he's practiced, but he's not playing, I don't think.
Oh, he's a full participant. There's a very likely chance that he'll play.
I'm always curious about that. Does that upset, or does that? I think we texted this. But does that upset the chemistry that you have going with Likely, or is that just adding to and making you better? It's really weird. I'm on the fence with it.
Lamar's already come out and said that he's excited about having Andrews back out on the field. He thinks it's going to be huge. He loves him, says he's his security blanket, and he's excited to have him back. I think there's going to be a few plays, and I actually may have texted you this. I think I did, regarding 2 tight end sets.
Right.
And I think we're going to start seeing some 2 tight end sets, and that's something that we don't really see a lot of. And in fact, stat that I had wanted to make sure we brought up. So the Ravens do not run a lot of 2 tight end sets. But let me tell you what happens when they have run 2 tight end sets this season. When Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely have been on the field at the same time, 2 tight end set, Lamar this season has gone 25 for 34 for 260 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, completion percentage of 73.5%, and a 0.39 EPA per dropback, which is awesome. And so I think there's every possibility that that would be something that the Chiefs defense can only game plan for so much, because there's very, very little of it that has been on film from us this year. And I think that can be a wrinkle that Monken can really use to his advantage.
Okay.
And why wouldn't you? Right? If you got him there, I mean, why not do it? Even if Mark Andrews is just a decoy. The reality is still having him out there with Likely at the same time in this 2 tight end set. That is a different look, and the amount of game film that they could have studied of the Ravens in a 2 tight end set is a total of 35 plays. That's it. So I think there's a real possibility. Yeah,
that would be interesting. Obviously, they have to activate before they have to activate him off of the injured reserve list before Sunday's game. So we'll see if they do that. I know he's full participant in practice. Curious to see if they're going you're full participant, but you're not quite game speed yet. I think that'll be the determining factor. Obviously, they're going to wait till the last possible minute because they're going to want the Chiefs game planning for him, clearly.
Right.
I'm more interested in whether or not Marlon Humphrey's going to be able to get back. He was limited in practice, and I'm really curious if he'll be able to get back to the game. Now, we've proven that we can hold our own with Hamilton in the back and in the crew that we got, but Marlon Humphrey.
Got to think you're better with Marlon Humphrey.
You are better with Marlon Humphrey. I'm on the fence as to right now, coming off the injury, missing so many games consecutively, if it would be wise to put Andrews in the game right now. I think you, I mean, it may sound like an idiot for even saying that, but I think you have not played in a very long time, and to drop you into a game and rely on you to have timing down, to have your, to be game speed, and with Likely playing out of his mind like he's doing, do you need to even force it?
I would. My guess is if he does play, he'll play sparingly. And how many of those times will be as a decoy, who knows? But I think the flip side is true, which is if you win and then you're going to the Super Bowl, are you then going to say, well, we're not going to play him in the Super Bowl either because now he hasn't played an even longer period of time and he has even less, chemistry with the team because of that time off? Like, at a certain point, if the guy's able to play, you got to have him play, unless you're just going to not play him for the rest of the year. And they could have done that. They chose not to.
I think then at least you'd have, if you count this week, if we do somehow make it to the Super Bowl, then you're looking at 3 weeks now of full practice. You know what I'm saying? So I think your conditioning is up then. I think your timing's gonna be back. I think you're gonna be working on the routes, stuff like that. I don't think there's a massive amount of drop off, but it only takes 6 inches. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's such a small window of pass and fail with the NFL. So I'm not mad if he doesn't play. I think we've proven that we have enough weapons to make it happen. I'm not mad if he doesn't play. I don't think there's need to rush him back.
No, I don't disagree. Yeah, so I don't disagree.
Final score.
Final score.
We were both off last week. Now, we did say it was either going to be a massive blowout, like 34-10, or it was going to be,
Yeah.
we thought it was going to be a little closer, though. We were calling more the spread,
Yeah.
like a 27-17 type thing. And we were both wrong. So
I'm looking at this as like a Ravens win 31-24.
okay.
I almost said 31-27. We go 31-24. So now you can't say either one of those. That's the rule. I don't make the rules. That's the rule.
That's I'm saying 27-17.
Ooh, okay. I like it. I like that. I like that. 27-17.
I was thinking 27-24 was my first thought that came to my mind. But if I say Butker's going to be the guy in the game, then it may be more of like a 27-23 or 27-26 type of thing.
Well, it's interesting because the over-under for the game is 44.5.
Okay.
So
I'm right there then.
Yeah, I mean that's a. I would be betting on a 44. I mean, it is a rainy, ugly day.
It's a rainy day.
That could definitely affect your offense. Because I was going to say I would take the over all day. I'd be hammering the over in this game with those numbers because I just think it's so easy to be a 24-21 game, something like that. And even with that, that overs or the line is 44.5. So it's like anything above a 24-21 game or from there up, you're on the over. So, I'm probably hammering the over on this game. But again, just for the record, we talked about it last week. And again, It was dead on, is that the Ravens are 10-3 against the spread in their last 13 games. And we said that the betting odds normally know how to read the Ravens. And sure enough, it was dead on against the Texans. I think we beat the over by 1 point.
So I'm gonna change this again. I'm gonna say 27-26 Ravens.
Wow. Okay, let me write this down. 27-26.
Pacheco touchdown, Mahomes passing touchdown, and 4 field goals.
4 field goals. Okay.
4 field goals from Butker.
All right. And what did I say? 31-24?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not writing down
4 field goals.
Stats. 4 field goals.
27-26. 27-26. We have 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals, and I'm going to say Lamar does not score a touchdown.
Ooh. There's a gutsy play.
That's a gutsy, but I'm going to say it's going to be running. We're gonna be hammering it. It's going to be.
But Lamar doesn't score a touchdown running or passing.
I say we have 3,
and we win.
I say we have 3 touchdowns from running backs. I said running backs are going to be the factor this game. So I'm saying when we get in the red zone, I say we have 3 touchdowns.
So they're going to be the factor. I didn't know that meant they're the only factor.
They're not.
They're the only players playing in the game.
No. They're just the only players scoring. I'm saying Lamar has 0 touchdowns this game.
Right.
This is just a stupid kind of prediction. I see a 0 touchdowns. Our running backs have 3 touchdowns. We have 2 field goals. We put up 27 points. We hold them to 4 field goals and a touchdown. So
I like it.
Touchdowns.
Okay. So before we wrap up here, I'm gonna give you one more line.
Mm-hmm.
Over or under Lamar Jackson, a 100 quarterback rating in this game against the Chiefs AFC Championship game. Quarterback rating under. Of 100. Going the over or the under?
I'm going the under.
Going under. Okay. What's your pick for Lamar's QB rating?
I'm going to say just under. I'm going to do like the high 90s.
Go ahead. Pick one.
98.
Ooh. Okay. I'm going to go 112.
112. Okay.
112. where the players dwell. Okay, so that
who wins the turnover battle?
I'm going to say us. I'm going to say it needs to be us. If it's not us, I'm very worried about the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say yes. And I will say this, just so you know, I mentioned earlier Lamar against blitz pressure against the Houston Texans.
Right.
Wanted to make sure I brought this up. His overall passing grade career-wise against the blitz, Lamar Jackson against the blitz in his career, 2020 to 2022, his passing grade against the blitz was a 58.8. That was 36th in the NFL. This year, quarterback rating against the blitz, 81, 5th in the NFL against the blitz.
He's learned.
If you don't know anything else, that right there, the man has improved 31 spots in his quarterback rating against the blitz.
You know, and Monken was very, very complimentary about how smart Lamar is. I think it's easy to overlook that and go like, well, you know, the way that you talk, or, you know, you're not super vocal, and, you know, some of these things that you could draw some false assumptions. I would probably tend to agree with that. He's smart, and I think this has probably been the biggest learning curve in his career this year, playing with Monken and getting a whole different perspective, because it seems like Monken, even more so than Roman, is not playing to his running strength, but playing to his passing strength. Yeah. Where it always felt like Roman was always playing to his athletic ability and not necessarily supporting what he needed to do to be better in the pocket. Now, that's a bunch of conjecture on my end. I have no idea what's happening in these meetings behind closed doors. But what you could see quite tangibly this year is pocket presence that we've never seen out of Lamar, patience that we've never seen out of Lamar, and in the ability to manipulate the defense more this year than we've ever seen. Yes. With his eyes, with not just breaking out in the run, but like going vertical along horizontal along the line of scrimmage, keeping his eyes downfield. Like, I feel like he's just been it felt like his football IQ has doubled this year, and hats off to him. Really impressed.
Well, it is impressive. And the other thing I'll say is this is year 1 under his new contract.
Yeah.
That contract, that was such a difficult situation and a difficult standoff and everything else.
Yeah.
And this guy comes out, and the question then is he worth the money? Is he going to be able to earn the money? Is this going to be a mistake? Are we hamstringing the team because you're going to have all this money tied up? The man goes out and puts up an MVP quality season and minimally takes the team to the AFC Championship Game, or hopefully the Super Bowl. That's year 1. Mm-hmm. So to think, this is a 5-year deal, to think that there are 4 more years under contract, locked up, taken care of for Lamar. I mean, what a security blanket for the organization right now. Yeah. And let me also say, thank goodness that the Ravens were negotiating this deal with Lamar last season and not after this season.
Yeah.
Because if he was negotiating with the team right now after a second MVP, after taking the team to this point and playing the way he's played this year and making this dramatic leap in his skill set and his playing, oh my goodness.
Which we never see, right?
Yeah.
We always see the opposite happen post-contract year.
That's right.
You always see them cash in the check and all of a sudden just like coast.
Yes.
It feels like he even more so this year. That fire's burning pretty. And it's interesting because you haven't watched the whole thing yet. But when they were talking about the Wired episode, which, I mean, hats off to Ravens production first of all. Like, their video production is top shelf. But one of the guys was saying that hindsight, looking back on the 2019 year, he said hindsight, it looked like they were enjoying the ride so much. They were so caught up in the present that they really were not thinking as much as they should have been. Like they were always caught up in that win, in that moment, how awesome it was, and it was really great. Right. Where this one's like, we don't care that we won. It's the next one. Like, we're always looking at the next one. So I think the culture is definitely different. I think it's ours to lose. Hopefully we have another show next week. That's all I'm saying.
That's it.
Yeah, with
show tier free. We have a tier free show
where we are smiling and making our plans to go to Vegas.
There you go.
That's the goal.
That's the hope. Yes. All right, my friend. Well, I think we can pretty well wrap this sucker up for tonight. Any last thoughts? I think we've pretty well covered everything that we need to, right?
I wish it was Monday morning. Yeah. That's where
this is going to be a big one, man. This is going to be a fun time. It's going to be a fun game. I'm looking forward to this one. I'm very curious to see how it's going to go. And I guess the only thing I can say is go Ravens.
Good luck. Go Ravens.
I owe you this. Purple Perch, we're playing it.